So this is part 4 to getting to know Coach T. Um, so after growing up in, I think I was about maybe 17 after I had my son, and I decided to go to housing authority and get me what they would call back in the day probably like a hood housing or whatever. But I was only 17 years old, so I didn't think they was gonna give it to me. But because I had a newborn baby, they decided that they would give it to me. But they told me that once I got this project, because that's what it was, moving into the project, that they would um, pay my light bill for me every month. Um, this is in Albany, Georgia, but I would have to do community service in order to keep it because I didn't have a job at the time, being so young. So um, that's how I end up getting in the projects so young. And I'll never forget that address. It was 633 West Resident in CME in Albany, Georgia. And that's not what made me a tough chick now. Like I said, I've been kind of like tough all my life. And even earlier on in my life, with the different type of, environments that I was in, I had experienced mental abuse very, very, very early by older men trying to come on to me and do these things to me. So I was already affected by that, but I didn't know it at the time. At the time, I just knew I had a baby, and we needed a place to stay. So I did that in Albany, which was really, really, really tough. Which brings me to my second, well, I would say my third relationship. And in this third relationship in my life, I'm talking about with a man. He was 10 years older than me. So I just want y'all to stay tuned because this is interesting. Let me show you how I conquered these things right here, dealing with older men. And basically, I've been doing it all my life. So let me tell y'all, stay tuned for an extension of part 4 with Coach T.